The windshield wipers scraped frantically against the glass, but they were no match for the blizzard that had turned the mountain road into a white blur. And Emma Hartley realized with growing dread that she could no longer see the painted line that marked the edge of the pavement. Her knuckles whitened as she gripped the steering wheel, her small sedan crawling forward at barely 15 miles per hour. The weather forecast had called for light snow, maybe an inch or two. This was a full-blown whiteout, the kind that swallowed roads whole and left travelers buried until spring thaw. Come on, she whispered, squinting through the windshield. Her phone had lost signal 20 minutes ago, right after the last text from her sister asking when she would arrive. The cabin rental was supposed to be another hour up the mountain, a peaceful weekend retreat to clear her head after quitting her job at the advertising agency. Instead, she was driving blind into what felt like the end of the world. The car lurched suddenly, the back tires sliding on black ice hidden beneath the snow. Emma's heart hammered as she steered into the skid, remembering her father's lessons from years ago. The vehicle straightened, but her relief lasted only seconds before the engine coughed, sputtered, and died. No. She turned the key. The engine tried to turn over, making a grinding sound that echoed her rising panic. She tried again. Nothing but a sad clicking noise. The wind howled outside, rocking her car like a toy. Snow was already accumulating on her hood, covering the blue paint in a thick white blanket. She grabbed her phone from the cup holder. No signal. No GPS. The battery icon showed 18%. Emma pulled her coat tighter and stared out at the wall of white surrounding her. She had maybe seen one other car in the past hour. The temperature inside the sedan was already dropping, her breath forming small clouds in the air. She had a half tank of gas, but running the engine for heat was impossible now. Think. She had to think. She could stay in the car and hope someone came by, but the snow was falling so hard that her vehicle would be buried within hours. Or she could walk, try to find help before hypothermia set in. Neither option felt particularly promising. She was reaching for her emergency kit in the back seat when she saw it, a faint yellow glow through the trees to her right. Light. Artificial light, which meant power, which meant people. Emma grabbed her purse, pulled on her woolen hat, and wrapped her scarf around her face. She pushed open the car door against the wind and immediately regretted every choice that had led her to this moment. The cold bit through her jeans instantly. Snow invaded her boots within 3 steps, but that light was there, beckoning like a lighthouse in the storm. She trudged through snow that reached her knees, using her phone's flashlight to navigate between the trees. The wind tried to push her back, and twice she stumbled over hidden rocks beneath the powder. Her fingers were going numb inside her gloves. Her face burned with cold. But the light was getting brighter, closer. After what felt like an eternity but was probably only 10 minutes, Emma stumbled into a clearing and stopped dead. The building before her was not some rustic mountain shack. It was a stunning modern cabin, all soaring windows and natural wood, with warm light spilling from every pane like liquid gold. A stone chimney rose from the center, smoke curling up into the night. 2 expensive-looking SUVs sat in the driveway beneath a covered carport. She half walked, half fell up the stone steps to the massive front door and knocked, her frozen fingers barely able to form a fist. Please be home. Please be kind. Please be anyone but an axe murderer. The door swung open, and Emma found herself staring up at possibly the most handsome man she had ever seen. He was tall, over 6 feet, with dark hair that looked artfully mussed and sharp features that belonged on a movie screen. He wore a thick cable-knit sweater and jeans, and his dark eyes widened as he took in her snow-covered, shivering form. "Help," Emma managed through chattering teeth. "My car died. I can't feel my feet. Jesus, get inside." His voice was deep and commanding. He reached out and pulled her gently but firmly into the warmth of the cabin. "How long were you out there?" "I don't know. 15 minutes. 20. The heat hit her like a physical force, and suddenly she was shaking uncontrollably. "Sit here." He guided her to a leather couch positioned near a roaring fireplace. "Don't move." He disappeared deeper into the cabin and returned moments later with an armful of blankets and towels. He knelt in front of her and began unlacing her boots with efficient, practiced movements. "I can do that," Emma protested weakly. "Your hands are shaking too much. Let me help." He pulled off her boots and her soaked socks, wrapping her feet in a thick towel. "We need to warm you up gradually. Too fast and it will hurt worse." "Who are you?" The question came out slightly slurred. Ben Morrison." He looked up at her, his dark eyes filled with concern. "And you are, Emma Hartley. I'm sorry for barging in like this. Don't apologize. That storm came out of nowhere." He wrapped a blanket around her shoulders, then another around her legs. "What were you doing out on that road?" "Trying to get to a rental cabin. Weekend getaway." She was starting to feel sensation return to her extremities, along with a painful tingling. The weather forecast said light snow. Mountain weather changes fast. Ben stood and moved to a sleek kitchen visible beyond the living area. "I'm making you something hot to drink. Coffee, tea, hot chocolate." "Hot chocolate sounds amazing." Emma watched him move around the kitchen with easy confidence, pulling down mugs and heating milk in a small pot on the stove. The cabin's interior was even more impressive than its exterior. Vaulted ceilings with exposed beams, floor-to-ceiling windows that probably offered spectacular mountain views when there was not a blizzard raging outside, tasteful modern furniture that looked both comfortable and expensive. Abstract art hung on the walls, and she spotted what looked like a genuine Eames chair near the window. "This place is incredible," she said. "Thanks. I designed most of it myself." Ben stirred something into the pot on the stove. "Built it about 3 years ago. I needed somewhere to escape from the city." "What city?" "Denver. I run a company there, but sometimes I need to disconnect." He poured the hot chocolate into a large mug and brought it over, pressing it into her hands. "Careful, it's hot." Emma wrapped her fingers around the mug, savoring the warmth. She took a tentative sip and nearly moaned. It was real hot chocolate, made from melted chocolate and cream, not some powdered mix. "This is incredible. Old family recipe." Ben settled into an armchair across from her, his own mug in hand. "So, Emma, are you traveling alone?" "Yes. Bad breakup, quit my job, needed to clear my head. The usual millennial crisis." She smiled weakly. "This was supposed to be 3 days of peace and quiet, not quite how I imagined it." "How long ago did your car die?" "Maybe half an hour. I don't even know what time it is." Ben glanced at his watch. "Almost 9, and your car is still out on the road." "Yes. I tried calling for a tow, but no signal." "You would not get one anyway. Storm probably took out the cell tower." He stood and walked to the window, peering out at the blizzard. "Nothing is coming up or down that mountain tonight. Weather service is calling for 2 feet, maybe more. Roads will be closed until tomorrow afternoon at the earliest." Reality sank in like a stone. "So I'm stuck here." "We both are." He turned back to her. "But you're welcome to stay. I have plenty of room, plenty of food, better than freezing in your car." Emma studied him carefully. He seemed genuine, his concern appearing authentic rather than creepy. And really, what choice did she have? "Are you sure?" "I don't want to impose." "You're not imposing. I'm alone here anyway." Something flickered across his face, too quick to identify. "Besides, my mother would kill me if she found out I turned away someone in a blizzard. She raised me better than that." The warmth was seeping back into Emma's body, bringing with it exhaustion. She had been tense for hours, fighting the storm and the steering wheel. Now, in the safety and comfort of this beautiful cabin, the adrenaline was draining away. "Thank you," she said quietly. "Really. You might have saved my life. Let's not be dramatic." But his smile was kind. "Have you eaten dinner?" "No, I was planning to grab something when I got to the rental. I was just about to make pasta, nothing fancy, but there's plenty. Are you hungry?" As if on cue, Emma's stomach growled loudly. They both laughed, and some of the tension dissolved. "I'll take that as a yes," Ben said. "Give yourself a few more minutes to warm up, then you can help if you want, or just sit there and supervise." "I can help. I'm feeling better already." She was. The violent shaking had subsided to occasional shivers, and her fingers no longer felt like blocks of ice. "What kind of pasta?" "Carbonara. Simple but satisfying." Emma pulled the blankets tighter and watched as Ben moved back to the kitchen, pulling ingredients from the refrigerator. He handled the food with the same confidence he had shown caring for her frozen feet. This was a man comfortable in his space, comfortable in his skin. "So what kind of company do you run?" she asked, curiosity getting the better of her. "Commercial real estate development." He cracked eggs into a bowl with one hand. "We design and build office complexes, mixed-use developments, that sort of thing." "Is that what you studied in school?" Architecture and business. Seemed like a good combination. He glanced at her. "What about you? What kind of work were you doing before you quit?" "Advertising. I was an account manager at a mid-sized agency in Boulder." Emma sipped her hot chocolate. "I was good at it, but I hated it. Every day felt like pushing a boulder uphill. My boyfriend thought I was crazy for quitting without another job lined up." "Boyfriend?" "Ex-boyfriend. We broke up 2 weeks ago. He said I was being irresponsible and impulsive." She laughed bitterly. "Maybe he was right. Here I am, unemployed and stranded in a snowstorm. Or here you are, brave enough to walk away from something that made you miserable." Ben started water boiling for the pasta. "That takes courage." Emma felt something warm bloom in her chest that had nothing to do with the hot chocolate. "Thank you for saying that." They fell into comfortable conversation as Ben cooked. He told her about growing up in Colorado, learning to ski before he could ride a bike, spending summers hiking and winters on the slopes. His father had been a contractor, his mother a teacher. He had one younger sister who lived in Seattle with her wife and their 2 kids. Emma talked about her childhood in Ohio, her move to Colorado for college, her love of painting that she had abandoned somewhere around her junior year when she decided she needed a more practical career. She told him about her sister, Sarah, who was married with twins and lived the perfect suburban life that Emma had once thought she wanted. By the time Ben declared the carbonara ready, Emma felt like she had known him for much longer than an hour. They ate at the large dining table near the windows, the storm raging outside making the warm interior feel even cozier. "This is delicious," Emma said after her first bite. "Where did you learn to cook?" "My mother insisted. She said she was not raising sons who could not feed themselves." He twirled pasta on his fork. "My sister got the same lessons. Equal opportunity kitchen education. Sounds like a smart woman. The smartest. She is a retired teacher now, but she still tries to educate everyone she meets." His smile was affectionate. "You would like her." The statement hung in the air between them, implying a future that extended beyond this unexpected night. Emma felt her cheeks warm and focused on her pasta. After dinner, Ben showed her to the guest bedroom upstairs. It was spacious and beautifully appointed, with its own attached bathroom and more of those floor-to-ceiling windows. "I'm sorry I don't have any women's clothes to offer you," he said, looking genuinely apologetic. but I can lend you a t-shirt and sweatpants to sleep in. Your clothes need to dry." "That would be great, thank you." He returned a few minutes later with the promised clothes, plus a new toothbrush still in its package. "There are extra towels in the bathroom cabinet. If you need anything else, my room is at the end of the hall." "Ben," Emma touched his arm lightly. "Thank you for everything. For taking me in, feeding me, being so kind. I know you didn't have to do any of this." He looked down at where her hand rested on his arm, then back up at her face. "I'm glad you made it here. I hate thinking about what could have happened if you had not seen the lights." For a moment, they stood there in the doorway, something electric passing between them. Then Ben stepped back, breaking the connection. "Get some rest. We can figure out the car situation in the morning." He gave her a small smile and headed down the hall to his own room. Emma closed the door and leaned against it, her heart racing in a way that had nothing to do with her earlier brush with hypothermia. She changed into Ben's clothes, the soft fabric smelling faintly of cedar and something distinctly masculine. She brushed her teeth and washed her face, studying her reflection in the mirror. Her cheeks were flushed, her eyes bright. She looked different somehow. Alive. The bed was incredibly comfortable, with high thread count sheets and a down comforter that felt like sleeping in a cloud. But despite her exhaustion, Emma lay awake for a long time, listening to the wind howl outside and thinking about the man down the hall. She woke to bright sunlight streaming through the windows and a profound silence. For a disoriented moment, Emma could not remember where she was. Then it all came flooding back. The storm, the disabled car stumbling through the snow, Ben's concerned face as he pulled her inside. She got up and looked out the window. The world had been transformed into a winter wonderland. Snow blanketed everything in pristine white, the trees heavy with it, the sky above a brilliant blue. It was breathtakingly beautiful and utterly impassable. Drifts reached halfway up the cabin's first-floor windows. Emma pulled on her jeans from yesterday, which someone had hung over a chair to dry, and padded downstairs in Ben's t-shirt and her socks. She found him in the kitchen making coffee, already dressed in fresh jeans and a flannel shirt that made him look like he belonged in an outdoor clothing catalog. "Good morning," he said, smiling at her. "How did you sleep? Like the dead? What time is it?" "Almost 10. I let you sleep. Figured you needed it after yesterday." He poured her a cup of coffee without asking, somehow knowing she would want one. "How do you take it? Cream and sugar, please." He doctored the coffee and handed it to her, their fingers brushing during the exchange. Emma felt that electric jolt again and saw from the slight widening of his eyes that he felt it too. "Have you checked the road conditions?" she asked, trying to sound casual. "Yeah, the highway is closed. Snow plows will not make it up here until this afternoon at the earliest, and that's just the main road. These side roads will take even longer." He leaned against the counter, cradling his own mug. "I tried calling a tow company on the satellite phone, but they said they would not be able to get to your car until tomorrow. Too much snow, too many emergencies." "Tomorrow?" Emma's heart sank. "Ben, I can't impose on you for 2 days." "Why not?" "It's not like either of us has anywhere else to be," he smiled. "Besides, I could use the company. It gets quiet up here alone. Do you come here often by yourself?" "Every few weeks when work gets overwhelming. Sometimes I bring friends, sometimes my family. But lately I've preferred the solitude." He set down his mug. "Or I thought I did." Emma's pulse quickened. She sipped her coffee to cover her reaction. "Well, if you're sure I'm not in the way." "I'm sure. Now, are you hungry? I make exceptional pancakes." They spent the morning in easy companionship. Ben did indeed make exceptional pancakes, fluffy and golden, served with real maple syrup and fresh berries he pulled from the freezer. They ate while watching the sunlight sparkle off the snow, talking about everything and nothing. Around noon, Ben suggested they bundle up and go outside. "I need to clear the driveway a bit, and you look like you could use some fresh air." Emma borrowed a spare ski jacket, hat, and gloves from the cabin's closet, all of which fit reasonably well. They stepped out into the cold, crisp air, and she gasped at the beauty of it all. The forest stretched in every direction, silent and serene, untouched except for their footprints. "It's magical," she breathed. "It is," Ben agreed, but he was looking at her, not the scenery. They spent the next hour shoveling paths through the snow. Ben handled the driveway while Emma cleared the walkways and steps. It was hard physical work, but satisfying. The cold air burned her lungs in a good way, made her feel alive and present in a way she had not felt in months. When they finally went back inside, rosy-cheeked and breathless, Ben made them more hot chocolate and they settled on the couch by the fire. "I haven't had this much fun in ages," Emma admitted. "Is that weird? I'm stranded in a snowstorm and I'm having fun." "Not weird. Sometimes the unexpected things turn out to be the best things." Ben shifted closer, his arm resting along the back of the couch behind her. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "What made you quit your job? Really?" Emma considered the question, wanting to give him an honest answer. "I woke up one Monday morning and realized I was dreading the week. Not just the day, the entire week. And I thought about how I had been feeling that way for months, maybe years. I was pouring all my energy into work that didn't matter to me, for a company that saw me as replaceable, in a relationship with someone who did not really see me at all." She set down her mug. "I just thought, what's the point? What am I doing with my life? So you walked away." "So I walked away. Gave notice at work, broke up with Tyler, took what savings I had and decided to figure out what I actually want." She laughed softly. "My sister thinks I'm having a breakdown. My parents are worried. Everyone keeps asking me what my plan is and I don't have one. I just know I couldn't keep living the way I was." Ben was quiet for a moment, studying her face. "I don't think you're having a breakdown. I think you're having a breakthrough." Yeah. Most people never have the courage to stop and question whether they are living the life they want. They just keep going through the motions until they wake up at 50 and wonder where it all went. His voice was fervent now, intense. "You're brave, Emma. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." She felt tears prick her eyes. "Thank you. I needed to hear that. I mean it." He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering against her cheek. "I think you're pretty remarkable, actually." The moment stretched between them, charged with possibility. Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. She could feel the warmth of his body next to hers, see the gold flecks in his dark eyes. He was going to kiss her. She wanted him to kiss her, but Ben pulled back, clearing his throat. "We should, think about lunch. Are you hungry?" The spell broke. Emma tried not to feel disappointed. "Sure. Lunch sounds good." They made sandwiches together, the earlier intimacy replaced by a slightly awkward politeness. Emma wondered if she had misread the signals, if that moment had been all in her imagination. But she kept catching Ben looking at her when he thought she was not paying attention, his expression unreadable. After lunch, he showed her his office, a beautiful space with built-in shelves full of architecture books and design manuals. His desk held multiple monitors and what looked like expensive drafting equipment. The walls were covered with framed blueprints and photographs of completed buildings. "These are all your projects?" Emma asked, studying a particularly striking office complex with innovative angles and lots of glass. "Most of them. The company has grown a lot in the past 5 years. We have projects all over the state now, some in Wyoming and New Mexico too." He stood next to her, pointing out different buildings. "That's the one I'm most proud of. mixed-use space in downtown Denver. Apartments, retail, offices, all designed to create a sense of community. It won LEED certification and several design awards. It's beautiful. You're really talented, Ben. He shrugged, but she could tell he was pleased. I love what I do. I get to solve problems and create spaces where people live and work. Every project is a puzzle. Do you ever miss it? When you're up here, I mean. Sometimes, but I'm still working even when I'm here. I just do it without the constant interruptions and meetings, he smiled. Although I have to admit, this is the first time I've been up here and not thought about work at all. Oh no, am I distracting you entirely? His voice was warm, his eyes crinkling at the corners. But I don't mind. They moved to the living room where Emma noticed a shelf full of vinyl records and a vintage turntable. You collect records? My dad got me started. He had a huge collection, and when he passed a few years ago, I inherited it. Now I can't stop adding to it. Ben flipped through the albums. What do you like? Jazz, rock, classical? Surprise me. He selected something and set it on the turntable. Soft jazz filled the cabin, a saxophone's smooth melody wrapping around them like silk. Miles Davis, Ben said, kind of blue, perfect for a snowy afternoon. They settled back on the couch, the music creating an intimate atmosphere. Emma felt herself relax into the cushions, into the moment. She could not remember the last time she had felt this comfortable with someone, this herself. Tell me about your painting, Ben said. You mentioned you used to paint. Oh, that was years ago. I haven't picked up a brush since college. Why not? Because I was not good enough to make a career of it, and if I could not be great, I did not see the point. She heard the bitterness in her own voice. That's what my ex used to say anyway, that I was wasting time on a hobby when I should focus on building my real career. That's bullshit. Ben's voice was sharp. Sorry, but that's complete bullshit. You don't have to be great at something to enjoy it. You don't have to monetize every passion. That's easy to say when you're doing something you love that also makes you money. Fair point. He was quiet for a moment. But for what it's worth, I think you should paint again. Do it just for you because it makes you happy. Who cares if anyone else ever sees it? Emma felt something crack open inside her chest, some hard shell she had not realized she had built. Maybe I will. I have paints here, actually, acrylics. I mess around with them sometimes, though I'm terrible, he grinned. If you want to paint while you're here, they're all yours. Really? Really? The afternoon slipped away in conversation and comfortable silences. They talked about books and movies, discovered a shared love of mystery novels and a mutual hatred of horror films. Ben told her about learning to ski, about breaking his arm in 3 places when he was 12 and being back on the slopes 2 months later. Emma told him about her college road trip across the country, camping in national parks and sleeping in her car. As evening approached, Ben started preparing dinner, salmon with roasted vegetables and rice. Emma sat at the kitchen counter, sipping wine and watching him work. He moved with such confidence, such ease in his own space. She found herself noticing little things. The way his hair fell across his forehead when he leaned over, the strength in his hands as he chopped vegetables, the way he hummed along with the music still playing softly in the background. Can I ask you something? Emma said suddenly. Always. Why are you single? A guy like you, successful, kind, handsome. I would think you would be in a relationship. Ben's knife stilled for just a moment before he resumed chopping. I was engaged, actually, about a year ago. What happened? She wanted different things than I did. Or maybe I wanted different things than she expected. He scraped the vegetables into a pan. Rachel was great, but she wanted a certain kind of life. Big house in the suburbs, country club membership, charity galas, all the trappings of success. And I realized I did not want that. I wanted this. He gestured around the cabin. I wanted simplicity, Authenticity. I wanted someone who loved me for me, not for what I could provide or what status I represented. That sounds reasonable. She did not think so. She said I was wasting my potential, that I had worked too hard to build the company just to hide away in the mountains. He added olive oil to the pan, the vegetables sizzling. We tried to make it work, but eventually we had to admit we wanted different lives. I'm sorry. I'm not. Not anymore. He looked up at her, his gaze steady. I'd rather be alone than be with someone who doesn't really see me. Emma felt the echo of her own words from earlier. They were the same, she realized. Both of them had walked away from paths that others thought they should follow, both searching for something more authentic. Dinner was delicious, the conversation flowing as easily as the wine. They lingered over the meal, neither wanting it to end. Afterward, they cleaned up together, moving around the kitchen in a comfortable dance of domesticity that felt both foreign and completely natural. Want to watch a movie? Ben suggested as they finished drying the last dish. Sure. What do you have? He had an impressive collection of films, both streaming options and physical DVDs. They debated choices before settling on a classic comedy neither had seen in years. Ben built up the fire while Emma made popcorn, and they settled onto the couch with a bowl between them. But as the movie played, Emma found it hard to focus on the screen. She was acutely aware of Ben next to her, the warmth of his body, the sound of his laugh, the way his shoulder brushed hers when he reached for popcorn. The attraction she had felt from the beginning was growing stronger, becoming harder to ignore. When the movie ended, they remained on the couch, the fire crackling softly in the hearth. The lights were low, the atmosphere intimate. I should probably get to bed, Emma said, but she made no move to stand. Probably, Ben agreed, also not moving. They looked at each other in the firelight. Emma could see the conflict in his eyes, the same war raging in her own chest. This was happening fast, maybe too fast. She had just gotten out of a relationship. He was a stranger, technically, even though he felt like anything but. Emma, Ben said softly, I need to tell you something. Her heart skipped. Okay. I really like you. I know that sounds crazy. We just met yesterday. But I haven't felt this connected to someone in a long time, maybe ever. He shifted to face her fully. And I don't want you to feel pressured or uncomfortable. If you want to keep this friendly, I understand, but I needed you to know. Emma's breath caught. I like you too, a lot. And you're right, it's crazy. It's completely insane, but I feel it too. Yeah, she smiled. So what do we do about it? Ben reached out and took her hand, his thumb stroking across her knuckles. We could see where it goes, no pressure, no expectations. Just two people getting to know each other. I think I'd like that. He lifted her hand to his lips and pressed a soft kiss to her knuckles, the gesture so tender it made her chest ache. Then that's what we will do. They sat there for a while longer, holding hands, talking quietly about nothing in particular. Eventually, Emma really did need to get to bed, but she walked upstairs with a lightness in her step that had nothing to do with the wine and everything to do with the man who waited until she reached her room before heading to his own. Emma woke the next morning to the smell of fresh coffee and something baking. She dressed quickly and headed downstairs to find Ben pulling a tray of muffins from the oven. Blueberry, he announced, looking pleased with himself. From scratch. Is there anything you can't cook? I'm terrible at baking bread. It always turns out like a brick. He transferred the muffins to a cooling rack. But these should be good in a few minutes. They ate breakfast while watching the morning light paint the snow-covered landscape in shades of pink and gold. The roads were still impassable, Ben reported after checking his phone. Her car would have to wait until tomorrow for the tow truck. You need to be somewhere, he asked. Job interview, family emergency, anything pressing? No. The rental cabin was paid through the week and I have no other plans. I cleared my schedule for the week. I'm officially on vacation, he smiled. So we have time. Time. The word hung between them, precious and full of possibility. After breakfast, Ben brought out the painting supplies he had mentioned. Emma had not held a brush in 5 years, and her hands trembled slightly as she squeezed paint onto a palette. But once she started, something inside her unfurled. She painted the view from the window, the snow-laden pines, the crystalline blue sky, the way the light caught the icicles hanging from the eaves. Ben worked at the opposite end of the long table, sketching something in a leather notebook. Every so often, Emma would look up and catch him watching her, his expression soft. "What?" she asked, smiling. "Nothing, you just look happy." She considered this. "I am happy. Weirdly, completely happy." "Good." They worked in companionable silence, broken only by the scratch of his pencil and the soft swish of her brush. Emma lost track of time, falling into the meditative state that painting had always brought her. When she finally set down her brush, stiff-necked and satisfied, she was surprised to see it was after 2 in the afternoon. "I made us lunch," Ben said, gesturing to the kitchen where sandwiches waited. "Figured you were in the zone." "Thank you." She studied her painting critically. It was not perfect, but it was hers, and she had enjoyed every minute of creating it. "I forgot how much I love this." "It shows. The painting is beautiful, Emma." She felt herself blush with pleasure. "Can I see what you were working on?" He hesitated, then turned the notebook toward her. The page was covered with sketches of a woman painting, her face in profile, completely absorbed in her work. The drawings were good, capturing movement and concentration with confident lines. "Ben, these are amazing. That's me." "I hope that's okay." "You were just so focused, and the light was perfect, and I could not help it." Emma looked at the sketches, seeing herself through his eyes, beautiful, passionate, alive. "It's more than okay." They ate lunch, then decided to brave the cold again. Ben led her on a short hike through the forest, following a path he had clearly walked many times before. The snow made it challenging, but they laughed their way through the deeper drifts, Ben catching her elbow when she stumbled. They emerged at a stunning overlook, the valley spreading out below them like a postcard. "This is incredible," Emma breathed. "This is why I built the cabin here. I never get tired of this view." They stood side by side, shoulders touching, looking out at the vast expanse of wilderness. Emma felt something shift inside her, a realization blooming. She was falling for this man, falling hard and fast in a way that should probably terrify her, but somehow felt completely right. "Ben," she started, but he turned to her at the same moment, and whatever she was going to say was lost as he cupped her face in his gloved hands and kissed her. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, a question. Emma answered by wrapping her arms around his neck, pulling him closer. The kiss deepened, and suddenly the cold did not matter. Nothing mattered except the feeling of his lips on hers, the solid warmth of his body against hers, the way her heart soared like it was trying to escape her chest. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ben rested his forehead against hers. "I've been wanting to do that since you showed up at my door covered in snow." "I've been wanting you to do that for just as long." They kissed again, slower this time, savoring it. When they finally headed back to the cabin, they walked hand in hand, stopping every few minutes to kiss again, unable to keep apart. The rest of the afternoon passed in a haze of stolen kisses and soft touches. They curled up on the couch with books, Emma tucked against Ben's side, his arm around her shoulders. They made dinner together, which took twice as long as it should have, because they kept getting distracted by each other. They talked and laughed and kissed until Emma's lips felt swollen and her heart felt full to bursting. That evening, as they sat by the fire, Ben pulled her into his lap, his arms wrapped securely around her waist. "I need to tell you something," he said quietly. Emma's stomach tightened with nerves. "Okay. When I said I run a real estate development company, that was true. What I did not mention is that it's pretty successful, very successful actually." He took a breath. "The company is worth about $80 million, and that's on a slow year. I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying it because I want to be honest with you, and because it's something that has complicated things in the past." Emma pulled back to look at him. "Complicated how? People change when they find out. Women I've dated start looking at me differently, like I'm a prize to be won or a bank account to access, or they get intimidated and pull away." His jaw tightened. "My ex knew from the beginning, and she loved what I could give her, but not really me. I don't want that with you. I want you to see me, just me, not the money or the status." Emma cupped his face, feeling the tension in his jaw. "Ben, I already see you. The money does not change what I've learned about you these past 2 days. You're kind and funny and talented and genuine. That's what I'm falling for, not your bank account." "Falling for?" His eyes searched hers. "Yeah," she whispered. "I'm falling for you." He kissed her then, deep and thorough, pouring everything he felt into it. When they broke apart, both flushed and breathing hard, he pressed his lips to her forehead. "I'm falling for you too, fast and hard and completely." They stayed up late that night, talking about everything, dreams and fears and hopes for the future. Ben told her about growing up without much money, about working construction with his dad every summer to save for college, about the first building he designed that actually got built. Emma told him about wanting to open a small art studio someday, a place where people could come take classes and create without pressure or judgment. They talked about travel and family, and all the places they still wanted to see. When they finally went to bed, they parted at Emma's door with long, lingering kisses that left them both wanting more. But they agreed to take things slow, to not rush something that felt this important. The next morning dawned clear and bright. The tow truck was able to make it up the mountain, and a cheerful mechanic named Dave diagnosed Emma's car with a bad battery and alternator. "Happens in cold weather," he explained. "I can fix it, but it'll take a few days to get the parts." Ben immediately offered to drive Emma anywhere she needed to go. "I need to head back to Denver anyway," he said, though she suspected he was adjusting his plans for her. "I can take you to your rental or back to Boulder, wherever you want." Emma looked at the cabin, then at Ben, then back at the cabin. She did not want to leave. She did not want this bubble to pop, this perfect interlude to end. But real life was waiting, and they both needed to return to it eventually. "Can you drop me at my rental?" she asked. "I already paid for the week, and I could use the time to think about what comes next." "Of course." Ben's voice was even, but she saw the flicker of disappointment in his eyes. They packed up Emma's things. Her now dry clothes, the painting she had made, the sketches Ben insisted she keep. The drive down the mountain was quiet, both of them lost in thought. When they pulled up to the small rental cabin, far less impressive than Ben's but cozy in its own right, Emma felt her chest tighten with anxiety. "So," Ben said, putting the car in park, "what happens now?" "I don't know," Emma admitted. "This has been the most amazing few days of my life, but it also feels like a dream, like real life is going to come crashing back in and ruin it. It does not have to be ruined. We live an hour apart. We can see each other, go on actual dates, figure this out." He took her hand. "I don't want this to end, Emma. I know it's fast, but I've never felt like this before. I want to see where this goes. I want that too. I'm just scared." "Of what?" "That I'm not ready, that I'm going to mess this up. That this feeling won't last once we're back in the real world." She blinked back tears. "You're amazing, Ben, and I'm a mess right now. I don't have a job or a plan or any idea what I'm doing with my life." Ben unbuckled his seatbelt and turned to face her fully. "Emma, listen to me. I don't care that you don't have a job right now. I don't care that you're figuring things out. That's part of what I love about you. You're brave enough to be uncertain, to step into the unknown." He brushed a tear from her cheek. "I'm not asking you to have it all figured out. I'm just asking you to give us a chance. What if I disappoint you?" "Impossible," he smiled. "The only way you could disappoint me is if you walk away from this without giving it a real shot." Emma took a shaky breath, then nodded. "Okay, let's do this. Let's see where it goes." The relief on his face was palpable. He pulled her into a kiss that tasted like promise and hope. When they finally separated, he pulled out his phone. "Give me your number, and tell me when I can see you again." "How about tomorrow?" Emma surprised herself with her eagerness. "Tomorrow is perfect." They exchanged numbers and made plans for him to drive back the next evening. They would have dinner, take things as they came. Ben helped carry her bags into the rental cabin, kissed her once more at the door, then headed back to his SUV. Emma watched him drive away, her heart full and her mind racing. True to his word, Ben showed up the next evening with flowers, a beautiful bouquet of winter blooms that must have cost a fortune at this time of year. They had dinner at a nice restaurant in the nearby town, talking and laughing like they had known each other for years instead of days. He drove her back to the cabin and kissed her goodnight at the door, sweet and chaste, respecting the boundaries they had set. He came back the day after that, and the day after that. They hiked and talked and slowly, carefully explored this thing growing between them. By the end of Emma's rental week, they had fallen into an easy rhythm. Ben had to return to work, but he called her every night, and they made plans for her to visit him in Denver the following weekend. That weekend, Ben picked her up in Boulder and drove her to his place, a stunning modern loft in a renovated warehouse building. The space was pure Ben, all clean lines and natural materials, with huge windows overlooking the city. He cooked dinner for her, and they talked for hours on his balcony, wrapped in blankets against the cold. Emma met his friends, other business owners and architects, creative types who welcomed her warmly. She saw the respect people had for Ben, the way his employees clearly admired him, how he treated everyone from the CEO of a partner company to the busboy at his favorite restaurant with equal consideration. In turn, Emma introduced Ben to her sister Sarah, who predictably tried to grill him about his intentions. But Ben won her over within 20 minutes, charming her with his easy confidence and genuine interest in her family. Even Sarah's skeptical husband had to admit that Ben seemed like a good guy. As winter turned to early spring, Emma and Ben's relationship deepened. Emma started taking art classes at a community center, rediscovering her passion for painting. She sold a few pieces at a local gallery and was surprised by how good it felt, not because of the money, but because someone valued something she had created. Ben encouraged her every step of the way. He came to her first show at the gallery, bought 2 of her paintings, and introduced her to a friend who owned a larger gallery in Denver. He never tried to use his money to solve her problems, but he supported her dreams in every way that mattered. 3 months after the snowstorm, Emma was offered a part-time position teaching art classes to kids. It did not pay much, but she loved it instantly. For the first time in years, she woke up excited about her day. She started painting more, experimenting with different styles and mediums. Ben celebrated each of her victories like they were his own. When she sold her first major piece for $1,000, he took her out for champagne and told her how proud he was. When she had a bad day and doubted herself, he reminded her of how far she had come. In return, Emma supported Ben through the stress of a major development project that hit unexpected snags. She learned about his work, asked intelligent questions, and provided a sounding board when he needed to talk through problems. She met his mother and sister, both of whom hugged her tight and told her they had been praying for someone like her to come into Ben's life. They took trips together, a weekend in Santa Fe, a week in Seattle visiting his sister, a long weekend at the cabin where they had met. That trip was special, both of them marveling at how different it felt to return to the place where everything had started. They hiked to their overlook and kissed at the same spot, remembering that first kiss, amazed at how much had changed. On their 6-month anniversary, Ben surprised Emma with a key to his loft. "I know you have your own place," he said, "but you're here most of the time anyway. I want you to feel like this is your home too." Emma took the key with tears in her eyes. She had been thinking about giving up her small apartment in Boulder, but she had been nervous to bring it up. "I was actually going to ask you how you would feel about me moving in." Ben's face lit up. "Really, really, I'm ready if you are. I've been ready since that first night." He pulled her into his arms. "I love you, Emma. I have for a while now. I wanted to tell you, but I didn't want to scare you off. You love me, completely, utterly, ridiculously." He cupped her face. "You're everything I didn't know I was looking for." Emma felt like her heart might burst. "I love you too. So much it scares me sometimes." They kissed, and it felt like a promise, like a beginning. Emma moved in 2 weeks later, her easels and paints finding a home in the loft's second bedroom that Ben had cleared out to make into a studio for her. They merged their lives with surprising ease, learning each other's rhythms and quirks, building a life together that felt both exciting and comfortable. A year after the snowstorm, they returned to the cabin for a long weekend. It was summer now, the mountain lush and green, wildflowers blooming in alpine meadows. They hiked to their special overlook, the place where they had first kissed. "Emma," Ben said, taking both her hands, "I've been thinking about this moment for months." Her heart started to race. "Ben, when you showed up at my door that night, frozen and lost, I had no idea you were about to change my entire life. But you did. You taught me what it means to be truly seen and loved for who I am. You make every day better just by being in it." He dropped to one knee, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. "I don't want to spend another day without knowing you'll be mine forever. Will you marry me?" Emma's vision blurred with tears. "Yes, yes, absolutely yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger, a stunning sapphire surrounded by diamonds, unique and perfect, just like him. They kissed as the sun set over the valley, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, the same colors that had filled the sky that first morning after the storm. They were married 6 months later in a small ceremony at the cabin, surrounded by family and close friends. Emma wore a simple dress and wildflowers in her hair. Ben wore a suit but no tie, and when he saw her walking toward him, his eyes filled with tears. The ceremony was simple and heartfelt. They wrote their own vows, speaking from the heart about second chances and unexpected blessings and finding home in each other. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, their friends and family erupted in cheers. The reception was held in a huge tent set up near the cabin, with strings of lights and good food and dancing under the stars. Ben's mother cried happy tears all night. Sarah told Emma she had never seen her sister look so happy. Ben's friends made embarrassing toasts that had everyone laughing. But Emma's favorite moment came late in the evening when she and Ben snuck away from the party for a quiet moment alone. They walked to their overlook, the sounds of celebration floating up from below. "Happy?" Ben asked, his arm around her waist. "Impossibly happy." Emma leaned into him. Can you believe it's been less than 2 years since I got stranded in that snowstorm? Best storm of my life. Mine, too. She turned to face him. Thank you for taking in a stranger that night. Thank you for trusting me enough to stay. He kissed her forehead. I meant what I said in my vows. You're my home, Emma. Wherever you are, that's where I belong. They stayed there until the stars came out, talking about their future. They wanted to travel, to see the world together. They talked about kids someday, maybe 2 or 3. They discussed Emma opening her dream art studio, with Ben promising to design the perfect space for it. They planned and dreamed and held each other close, grateful for the storm that had brought them together. 2 years later, Emma's art studio opened in a beautifully renovated space in downtown Boulder. Ben had designed it himself, creating an airy, light-filled environment perfect for teaching and creating. The grand opening was packed with people, students, art lovers, curious locals, and all their friends and family. Emma stood at the front of the room, looking out at the crowd, still hardly believing this was real. She gave a short speech thanking everyone, especially Ben, who believed in me even when I did not believe in myself. The studio was successful beyond her dreams. She taught classes for kids and adults, hosted art shows for local artists, and even started a program offering free classes to underserved communities. Ben was so proud he could barely contain it, telling anyone who would listen about his talented wife and her amazing studio. Their life settled into a beautiful rhythm. Weekdays in Denver and Boulder, weekends at the cabin when they could manage it. Holidays with family, date nights at their favorite restaurants, quiet evenings at home painting and sketching and talking about everything and nothing. 3 years into their marriage, Emma discovered she was pregnant. They had been trying for a few months, and when the test came back positive, she could hardly breathe through her excitement. She told Ben that evening, simply handing him the test without a word. He stared at it for a full minute before looking up at her, tears streaming down his face. Really, really. He swept her into his arms, spinning her around before remembering he probably should not be doing that. They laughed and cried and called their families, who screamed with joy over the phone. The pregnancy was smooth and uneventful. Ben was attentive to the point of being slightly overprotective, making sure Emma rested enough and ate well and did not overexert herself at the studio. She found it endearing, even when she insisted she was perfectly capable of teaching a painting class while 7 months pregnant. Their daughter arrived on a snowy December evening, almost exactly 4 years after the storm that had brought her parents together. They named her Nora Grace Morrison, and she had her father's dark eyes and her mother's smile. Ben held his daughter with such tenderness, such awe, that Emma fell in love with him all over again. "Hi, Nora," he whispered. "I'm your dad, and I promise to always keep you safe and warm, just like I did for your mom that night in the snow." Emma's heart melted. They were a family now, bound together by love and choice and the courage to take chances on unexpected blessings. 2 years later, their son arrived, James Benjamin Morrison, Jamie for short. He was loud and energetic from day one, the opposite of his calm, observant sister. Their family felt complete. Life was full and busy and sometimes chaotic, but it was theirs. Emma scaled back her hours at the studio but kept teaching a few classes, loving the balance between her art and her family. Ben remained successful in his business, but made family his priority, leaving work at the office and being fully present for dinners and bedtimes and weekend adventures. They returned to the cabin as often as they could, introducing their children to the place where their parents' love story had begun. Nora loved painting the mountain views, showing her mother's talent. Jamie loved hiking and exploring, fearless and curious about everything. One evening, when Nora was 6 and Jamie was 4, they sat around the fire in the cabin. The kids were finally asleep upstairs after an afternoon of sledding had worn them out. "You ever think about how different our lives could have been?" Emma asked, curled against Ben's side. "If I had not gotten stranded, if I had not seen your lights, if you had not opened the door all the time," Ben admitted. "I think about how I almost stayed in Denver that weekend. I was tired and had too much work, but something made me come up here anyway. Fate, maybe. Or just really good luck." He kissed the top of her head. "Whatever it was, I'm grateful every single day. Me too." Emma looked around the cabin, at the home they had built together, at the life they had created. "This is everything I never knew I wanted." "Same. You saved me that night, you know. Not just from loneliness, but from a life that looked good on paper but felt empty." He shifted to look at her fully. "You taught me what matters, Emma. You showed me that the best things in life are not the ones you plan for. They are the ones that show up unexpected, covered in snow, asking for help." Emma laughed, remembering that version of herself, lost and freezing and desperate. She had been looking for an escape that weekend, a chance to figure out her life. Instead, she had found her life, waiting behind a cabin door with kind eyes and warm hands. "I love you," she said. "Thank you for opening the door." "Always," Ben promised. "I'll always open the door for you." Years continued to pass, full and rich. Emma's studio thrived, expanding to a second location. Ben's company grew but stayed true to his values, focusing on sustainable development and community-focused design. They traveled as a family, Europe one summer, Japan another, always adding new experiences to their shared story. Nora grew into a thoughtful teenager with her mother's artistic talent and her father's practical mind. She talked about becoming an architect who specialized in designing art spaces, blending both her parents' passions. Jamie remained a whirlwind of energy, throwing himself into soccer and rock climbing, keeping his parents young and active. Ben and Emma's marriage remained strong through all of it. They made time for each other, maintaining weekly date nights and annual trips back to the cabin without the kids. They worked through challenges together, communicating openly and choosing each other every single day. On their 10th wedding anniversary, they returned to the overlook where Ben had proposed. The kids were with Ben's sister for the weekend, giving them rare time alone. 10 years, Emma marveled, looking out at the familiar view. "It feels like both forever and no time at all." "I know what you mean." Ben pulled her close. "Best 10 years of my life, without question. Mine too." She turned in his arms. "Do you have any regrets? Anything you wish had gone differently?" Ben pretended to think about it, then shook his head. "Not one single thing. Well, maybe I wish I had kissed you sooner. That first night, maybe. We were not ready that first night. Everything happened exactly when it was supposed to." Emma smiled. "We got our timing right." "We did." He kissed her softly. "Here's to the next 10 years, and the 10 after that, and every year until we're old and gray and still coming up to this cabin. Deal." They stood there as the sun set, the same way they had on their wedding day, on the day Ben proposed, on the day of their first kiss. The overlook had become their place, the physical representation of their love story, beautiful, elevated with a view that stretched on forever. The kids grew up. Nora went to architecture school, following her dream of designing spaces for artists. Jamie got a scholarship to play soccer in college, his energy and passion finally finding their perfect outlet. The house became quieter, but Ben and Emma found they loved this phase too, rediscovering each other as a couple, not just as parents. Emma's hair gained streaks of gray, which Ben said made her look distinguished. Ben's temples silvered, which Emma said made him look even more handsome. They aged together, their love deepening with each passing year. They became grandparents when Nora married a kind man named David and had twins, a boy and a girl who looked exactly like their great-grandfather, Ben's father. Jamie married his college sweetheart, an environmental scientist named Keiko, and they had a son who inherited his father's fearless nature. Ben and Emma spoiled their grandchildren shamelessly, bringing them to the cabin and teaching them to love the mountains. They told them the story of how Grandma had gotten stranded in a snowstorm, and Grandpa had saved her, though Emma always insisted she had saved herself, and Ben had just provided the destination. On their 30th anniversary, their children and grandchildren threw them a party at the cabin. 3 generations filled the space, laughter and love flowing freely. Emma stood on the deck, watching her family, and felt overwhelming gratitude for the path her life had taken. Ben came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist like he had done 1,000 times before. "What are you thinking about? How lucky I am, how grateful," she leaned back against him. "How that snowstorm was the best thing that ever happened to me." "I was just thinking the same thing." He rested his chin on her shoulder. "We built a good life, Emma, a really good life. We did." She turned to kiss him. "And it all started because you opened your door to a frozen stranger. Best decision I ever made." Inside the cabin, their family called for them to come in for cake. Ben and Emma walked inside hand in hand, surrounded by the family they had created, the love they had built, the life they had chosen together. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, Ben and Emma took one last walk to their overlook. The stars were brilliant overhead, the summer air warm and pine-scented. They did not need to speak, comfortable in the silence of 30 years together. Emma thought back to that version of herself. 27 years old, lost and scared, her car broken down in a blizzard. She wished she could tell that woman what was waiting for her behind that cabin door, that she was about to meet the love of her life, that she would build a career doing what she loved, that she would raise 2 amazing children and watch them build their own families, that every struggle, every fear, every uncertain moment would lead her exactly where she needed to be, but maybe that woman needed to find out for herself. Maybe the discovery was part of the magic. "I love you," Emma said into the darkness. "I love you more," Ben replied, the same playful argument they had been having for 30 years. Impossible. Absolutely possible. They stood there until the stars wheeled overhead, 2 people who had found each other in a storm and built something beautiful from that chance encounter. Their love story was not about grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It was about showing up day after day, choosing each other through every season of life. It was about a door opened in a storm, an invitation extended, a risk taken. It was about trusting that sometimes the best things in life come from the unexpected detours, the broken-down cars, the wrong turns that lead us exactly where we need to be. Emma and Ben walked back to the cabin hand in hand, their shadows long in the moonlight, their hearts full of 30 years of love and the promise of many more to come. The cabin door closed behind them, shutting out the night, keeping safe the warmth and light and love they had built together. And somewhere, in the multiverse of possibility, another version of Emma drove past the cabin that night, her car making it safely to her rental. That Emma had a nice, quiet weekend and went home to figure out her life alone. But this Emma, the one who got stranded, who knocked on a stranger's door, who took a chance on something unexpected, she got everything. She got love and family and purpose and joy. She got a life beyond her wildest dreams, all because of a snowstorm and a man kind enough to open his door. That was the real magic, Emma thought as she fell asleep in Ben's arms that night. Not fate or destiny or any grand design. Just 2 people being brave enough to let each other in, choosing each other every day, and building something beautiful from a chance encounter on a snowy night. Their love story had started with a storm, but it had bloomed into a lifetime of sunshine. And Emma would not change a single moment of it.